Hey, friend, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host today, Tara DeMerchant, and I'm so excited that we get to talk about something that I think will be really encouraging to you. The topic we're going to talk about today is how do you make a difference when you find yourself in a place that you really were not expecting to be, and perhaps a place that you really don't want to be in? So let's dive in and find some encouragement today. We get to study 2 Kings chapter 5 is where we're going to find this story. So this is the story of Naaman. Now, a lot of times we hear about Naaman being healed from leprosy, and we don't really focus much on how that happened. So we're going to read through the story today, and then I'm going to give you 3 tips from the servant girl and 3 tips from what happened with Naaman that will help you as you're navigating, if you're finding yourself in a place where maybe you don't want to be, but you really want God to use you to make a difference in that place. Your heart is there. Maybe you really just are not expecting to be where you're finding yourself today. And I want you to walk away from listening today with really some encouragement and some practical things that you can ask yourself at the end of this, how you can make a difference. So let's dive in. I'm reading from the NAS today. And so it starts off with, now Naaman, captain of the army of the king of Aram, was a great man with his master and highly respected, because by him the Lord had given victory to Aram. The man was also a valiant warrior, but he was a leper. So he has a problem. Naaman has a problem. He has leprosy, and leprosy is only going to get worse. There was no way for him to be healed. And so even though he had all of these accolades and the king thought he was awesome and he was this great man and he was victorious, really all of that pales into insignificance when we read that last line. He was a leper. So he was going to die. Like, there was no, ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was just going to happen through the course of time. He was not going to get better. Now, verse 2. Now, the Arameans had gone out in bands and had taken captive a little girl from the land of Israel, and she waited on Naaman's wife. Okay, so we don't know if Naaman was directly involved in, like, Naaman had said, we're going to send out these raiders and you're going to take these people. We don't know exactly, but we do know that Naaman was a commander in this army. So he probably had some pull. This was probably something that they did a lot of. And so this young girl, we don't know how old she was. She could have been around the age of 12. She could have been younger, maybe a little bit older, but she was called a young girl. And she had been taken from her family. She had been taken from her homeland. She had been brought as a captive to the Arameans, and now she has been tasked with serving Naaman's wife. So she became a servant girl, a slave girl to Naaman's wife. So in verse 3, it says, now she said to her mistress, I wish that my master, talking about Naaman, I wish that Naaman were with the prophet who was in Samaria. Then he would cure him of his leprosy. So this little girl who finds herself in a foreign country and being a slave, taken away from her family, now she's serving someone else. She sees this problem and she says, I know who can help, So if Naaman was with the prophet in Samaria, Naaman could be cured. Now, verse number 4, Naaman, somehow this probably Naaman's wife tells him, somehow the word gets back to Naaman. Naaman went in and told his master. So he tells the king, says, thus and thus, so such and such, this is what this girl said, spoke the girl who is from the land of Israel. Verse 5, then the king of Aram said, well, go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. He departed and took with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, 10 changes of clothes. he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, "And now as this letter comes to you, behold, I have sent Naaman, my servant, to you, that you may cure him of his leprosy." Okay, let's stop there for a second. So the little girl had not said, "Go to the king. The king is going to heal you." The little girl had said the prophet would be able to heal you, not the king. And so when the king of Israel gets this in verse number 7, it says, "When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and he said, 'Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man is sending word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? But consider now and see how he is seeking a quarrel against me.'" So the king of Israel's like, he's picking a fight with me. He's wanting to like trap me and tell me to heal Naaman. And I can't do that. I know I can't do that. And it happened when Elisha, this is verse number 8, it happened when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, that he sent word to the king, and he said, "Why have you torn your clothes? Now let him," talking about Naaman, "come to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel." So, king of Israel, I'm sure, was feeling much better about this at this point. "Go see Elisha, because I can't heal you." So verse 9, "So Naaman came with his horses and his chariots, and he stood at the doorway of the house of Elisha." All right. Now, this is what happens. He gets there, and verse 10, "Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, 'Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh will be restored to you, and you will be clean.'" Okay, so this is what he said. Go to this river, go to the Jordan River, go wash in it 7 times, like go dip in it 7 times, and you're going to be cleaned of your leprosy. Okay, what was Naaman's reaction? All right, verse 11. "But Naaman was furious, and he went away, and he said, 'Behold, I thought, he will surely come out to me, and he will stand, and he'll call on the name of the Lord his God, and he'll wave his hand over the place, and he'll cure the leper. Are not,'" and then he names a couple of rivers in Damascus, and he says, "Aren't they better than all of the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" So he turned and he went away in a rage. So he's totally ticked off. He's like, "I came here. I was expecting the man of God to come out and do this, like put his hand and call on God, and then I'm going to be healed. And what does this prophet tell me to do? He tells me to go take a bath in a dirty river. Like, really? Are you kidding me? There's much better water where I'm from. Like, I should just be able to go there." He was totally ticked off. So he about missed his miracle because he was ticked off here. Verse 13, this is chapter 5 still. "Then his servants came near and spoke to him and said, 'My father, had the prophet told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then, when he says to you, wash and be clean?'" So Naaman thinks about what they said, and he said, "All right." Verse number 14. "So he went down and he dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean." And I love what happens in these next couple of verses. Verse 15, "When he returned to the man of God with all of his company and came and stood before him, he said, 'Behold now, I know that there is no God in all of the earth but in Israel. So please take a present from your servant now.'" Okay, so he's like, I know there's only one true God, the one who just healed me, right? I know there's only one. So please take these presents as his thanking Elisha. And Elisha says, "As the Lord lives, before whom I stand, I will take nothing." And he urged him to take it, and Elisha still refused. And then Naaman says this is such an interesting request. And he says, Naaman said, "If not, please let your servant at least be given 2 mules load of earth. For your servant will no longer offer burnt offering, nor will he sacrifice to other gods, but to the Lord. In this matter, may the Lord pardon your servant when his master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there. And he leans on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, and I bow myself when I do this, will the Lord please pardon your servant in this matter? And Elisha says to him, go in peace. And he departed from him. Okay, so what he happens, he asks for dirt. He's like, if you're not going to take all these gifts, can I just ask you for 2 mules, enough dirt for 2 mules to be able to carry, that much dirt to be able to take back with me. I want to take the dirt of Israel with me. And so I was doing a little bit of study on this. I love the way that scripture is when you study why was this important, that you find out things. And so I was reading a little bit, and there's significance to the fact that he was asking for the earth from Israel, because it was representation of taking part of Israel, taking Israel's God back with him. He knew that this land that he was going back to was not a land that served God. It wasn't God's land. It was someone else's. They served other gods. And he wanted to take this piece of earth back with him to represent with him, like, I'm taking this back with me. He truly had this experience and recognized that the God of Israel was the one true God. He was the one who had saved him. And he said, I am not going to sacrifice and offer, sacrifices to any other God anymore. Just this one true God who has saved me, who has healed me. So as I was thinking about this, 2 people in this story, now there might be more, but the 2 that we're going to focus on, that found themselves in places that they weren't expecting to be and really probably didn't want to be there. Number 1, the first person is this servant girl. She finds herself in a foreign land. She finds herself in a house that is not her home. She finds herself serving someone who, in all likelihood, these are would be her enemies, right? They're the ones who took her from her homeland, from her family. And so she finds herself in this place. But we can learn so many lessons from her. Here are the 3 that I want us to take away from this story today. Number 1, look for opportunities where you are. She was there. She was serving. She was paying attention to the needs that were around her, right? Maybe she sees that Naaman's wife is crying over what's happening with her husband. She hears the problem that Naaman's got leprosy now. Maybe that was a new thing. Maybe that happened when she got there, but she was aware of what was happening in her surroundings. So number 1, if you want to make a difference, even in a place that you're not expecting to be, and maybe you don't want to be there, number 1, look for an opportunity. Number 2, be brave enough to step up and take the opportunity if you're given a chance to say something or do something. Because she actually spoke up and she said to the person she was serving. So she was in a subservient role. She wasn't the leader. She was the servant girl. She answered to this, person who was in charge, but yet this servant girl had enough compassion, enough awareness, and enough bravery to say something to Naaman's wife. And I love what she said. Number 3, this is number 3. She was true to what she knew to be true, right? She knew that there was a prophet of the God of Israel who, if Naaman was with that prophet, Naaman would be healed of his leprosy. So she didn't back down and say, you should go to serve your gods. You should go ask your gods. She didn't forfeit what she knew to be true, where she was in the hard place. And I think that is so powerful, because we're tempted to do that so often. Just give up what we really know to be true to fit in. That's not what she did. She did not give up what she knew to fit in. She spoke the truth to Naaman's wife. Okay, so those are the first three from the servant girl. She looked for opportunity. She saw an opportunity. So look for an opportunity. If you see an opportunity, be brave enough to do something, to say something. And number three, be true to what you know, who you know God to be. Don't forfeit. Don't try to don't let the truth that you know about God be sucked in by all of the things around you that are telling you that um, that that God can't move, or all the things that are fighting against you. Be true to who you know God to be from his word. Okay, now, next, we're going to talk about Naaman. So, what are the things Naaman found himself, right? He was a leper. He then, not only that, he actually went and he like was expecting to be healed. And then he gets told to go take a bath in a dirty river. And then he's ticked off, right? So, number one, I don't think Naaman was expecting to be told that. He flat out says he wasn't. He was expecting for the man of God to come out and make some big pronounce this big thing and do this miracle right there. And instead he said, no, you need to go do this other thing. So if you find yourself in a place that like, this is not where I want to be, know that that's okay. Like the answer that you're looking for is probably not going to come in a way that you're expecting it to come. And that's okay. God's ways are more profound and they are better, even if we don't understand them yet. And they are loving and they are kind and they are good. So expect that your answer will not come in the way that you're expecting, but that God will come through for you. Number two, I love this. Naaman, he was ticked off, but his servants said to him, they were the voice of reason. They had good advice for him. They're like, look, if you were going to, if he had told you to go do something that was really hard to do, you would have been, I can do this. He told you to go dip in the river 7 times. So come on, just do it. So listen to good advice, no matter where it came from. Even the advice to come to the prophet, Elisha in the first place, that came from a servant girl. Now his servants are telling him, like, just do it. He wasn't so prideful that he wouldn't take good advice when he heard it. That's really a powerful thought for us. Like, if we hear good advice, no matter where it's coming from, it might not be the place that we're expecting it to come from, but if somebody gives us good advice, we should be willing to take it. And then number 3, show gratitude. Like when Naaman was healed, he went back and he showed gratitude for the miracle that had been done. So that's really practical. Like people do things for us sometimes. And if we can just pay attention and we can just be filled with gratitude over the things that people do for us, and we show that gratitude back, it just speaks such volumes to people. And I can't help but think about the result of the servant girl speaking up and not, buckling to all of the gods that were around her, and still staying true to the one true God, and being willing, being brave. I can't help but think about her saying something, and then even Naaman's, servant saying something, and Naaman being willing to do the kind of odd thing, but doing it anyway. And I think about the result. Like, Naaman experienced the miracle twofold. Number one, he experienced this physical healing that he wanted. And number 2, and most important, he spiritually was healed too, because he realized who God was. And we can see that by the fact that he's like, I am not going to offer my sacrifices to any other God, just the one true God. just the one true God. And then even takes this dirt back with him. Like, that's just a cool little thing to help us remember, like, this was truly a transformation in Naaman's life. So if you're finding yourself in a place today where you're not expecting, you weren't expecting to be here, maybe it's a hard place, this isn't really where you want to be, I want to encourage you, God can use you right where you are to make a difference. So look for an opportunity, be brave enough to take it when you see it, stay true to who God is. And then if you're in the middle of something and you're wanting to, break out of this struggle that you're in, just expect that your answer is not going to come from the way that you're looking for it. Don't be prideful enough to where you won't take advice from people. Listen to good advice, no matter where it comes from, and then be grateful and show gratitude to those who God has used in your life to make a difference. And then give God glory, friend. Give God glory. He has such a great plan for you. And I just want to encourage you today. If you want some extra encouragement, and Rachel has these awesome verses that you can go download at Rachel Ngom, RachelNgom, RachelNgom.com/who God says I am. There's these powerful verses for kingdom entrepreneurs that you can download, and you can also get the audio and just let them play and permeate your heart and your mind and wash your mind over with the Word of God, and it will make such a difference in your life. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and we can't wait to see you back here on another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. See you next time.